Okay, picture this. Imagine, just for a second, that you could rent out a boardroom, invite the absolute most brilliant financial minds in history, hand them the financials of a single company, and just listen to them debate. I mean, that is literally the ultimate investing fantasy, right? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a platform that brings this exact fantasy to life. It's called AlphaCouncil, and it is a fascinating piece of analytical architecture designed to completely cut through market noise.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda. First, a virtual boardroom of legends. Second, under the hood, the engine. Third, the core financial metrics. Fourth, the 4 expert quadrants. And finally, 5, generating the consensus rating.
Section 1. A virtual boardroom of legends, the ultimate mastermind.
You know, the biggest problem we face as retail investors really isn't a lack of information. It's that we're drowning in market noise and, let's be honest, our own cognitive biases. AlphaCouncil solves this by simulating an entire room of legendary investors, exactly 35 of them. They're all looking at the exact same stock at the exact same time, but they're filtering it through 35 completely different philosophical lenses. It is this massive, synchronized synthesis of market wisdom.
Section 2. Under the hood. The engine, powering the council.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the tech itself. To power 35 distinct analytical personas, you'd probably think you'd need massive, clumpy software, or actually scratch that. You'd expect to need some insanely expensive cloud server. But AlphaCouncil's engine is entirely browser native. There is absolutely no server required on the backend for processing. It runs entirely locally for you, which is just an incredibly elegant, lightweight way to handle both data privacy and speed.
It uses a brilliantly simple 3-step workflow. Step 1, you just plug in a Gemini API key. This large language model is essentially the cognitive fuel for our simulated legends. Step 2, enter a company ticker, like Infosys or TCS. And Step 3, hit Run Council. That's it. In 3 clicks, you've deployed advanced AI to simulate decades of Wall Street experience. It is the absolute democratization of institutional-grade intelligence. But hey, before they can actually opine on anything, they need raw data.
Section 3. The core financial metrics, the foundation of analysis.
Right, so if you put 35 geniuses in a room, they absolutely need a baseline of facts to argue over. The system basically sits in standby mode, awaiting a ticker to populate 5 core metrics: price to earnings, price to book, return on equity, debt to equity, and free cash flow. These aren't just random data points. Together they form a rapid, 360-degree X-ray of corporate valuation, covering profitability, debt, and actual cash generation. But the real magic is all about who is looking at these numbers.
Section 4. The 4 expert quadrants, mapping the legends.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the platform organizes everything. These 35 minds aren't just thrown into a random list. They're organized into a strict 2x2 analytical grid to ensure every single market angle is covered. You've got Forex and futures, macro engine and fund timers, quant systematic, and finally equity and psychology. This guarantees a stock isn't just evaluated on its fundamentals, but on momentum, the broader macroeconomic environment, and human behavior. Let's take a closer look at each group.
Quadrant 1 features 6 minds completely dedicated to Forex and futures. These are the risk managers and the pure trend followers. We're talking legends like Bill Lipschitz, Richard Eckhart, and the famous turtle traders. When activated, they will entirely strip away the company narrative and just look at the price action with the ruthless efficiency of commodities traders.
Next, we move to Quadrant 2, the macro engine and fund timers. This quadrant holds 8 heavy-hitting minds. We are talking about simulated versions of Stanley Druckenmiller and Ray Dalio. These are the big-picture thinkers. They aren't just looking at the company's debt. No, they're looking at how global interest rates, currency fluctuations, and massive economic cycles are going to impact that company over the next decade.
Down in Quadrant 3, we have 10 minds known as the Quant Systematic Money Machines. This is literally where emotion goes to die. Simulated minds inspired by Tom Basso, Ed Thorpe, and the Ritchie brothers reside right here. They process the PE and free cash flow data systematically, hunting for statistical anomalies, arbitrage opportunities, and pure mathematical edges.
Finally, we conclude our tour of the board with Quadrant 4, the largest group, featuring 11 equity and psychology specialists. This quadrant beautifully blends traditional value investing with behavioral finance.
You have the simulated frameworks of Joel Greenblatt, analyzing pure value, sitting right alongside Daniel Kahneman, evaluating the cognitive biases currently baked into the stock's price.
Section 5. Generating the consensus rating, the final call.
Let's move to the end and see how this all builds together. What actually happens when 35 distinct personalities, spread across 4 specialized quadrants, digest the exact same data? Well, it doesn't just hand you 35 different reports to read. That would completely defeat the purpose. Instead, it distills all of that complex, multidisciplinary debate into one simple, actionable number, the consensus rating, scored out of 100. So, the crucial point is, it takes the noise of the market, passes it through the greatest analytical filters in history, and hands you a single, highly objective signal.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to ponder today. We all know investing is deeply personal. And sure, no system is completely perfect. But if you could truly simulate 35 of the greatest market legends debating a single stock, hashing out the macro, the quant, the psychology, and the fundamentals, would you trust their final consensus over your own gut feeling? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you structure your understanding of exactly how AI is reshaping investment analysis.